This is the between, possibly part 9, I think. He's a part 9? Okay, yeah. Um, we are gonna do some recapping because we didn't have Fraser last week, so we're gonna kind of do a little more than the normal just reciting the threats. I do wanna just do the normal reciting the threats, though. The big thing that happened last time is there are a few big things, but the major big thing is that we introduced a brand new threat. And so that threat is called the Whately camera. Now, let me give you sort of a summary of what's going on with the Whately camera. Essentially, there is this actress, Penelope Levy, who, well, let me back up. The real key thing about the Whately camera is that Hargrave House knows about the Whately camera. They have research in their archives on this camera, which was the first wet plate tin type, whatever, I can't remember the exact phrase, camera. And this American researcher by the name of Whately discovered that the camera, when certain environmental conditions are met, the camera will transport you to another dimension. And he posited this theory that this dimension is called the fragrant void, that it is a sort of primordial earth that exists in parallel with regular earth. He was never able to prove the existence of the dimension, but he did come up with the procedure for making the Whately camera do this, to make you disappear. And unfortunately, before he could publish his notes, they were destroyed, and the Whately camera was stolen, and that was a number of years ago. Now, fast forward to our modern day, our present contemporary time, an actress named Penelope Levy went missing. She had recently been hanging out with this club of photography enthusiasts, wealthy, decadent, noble photography enthusiasts called the Society Obscura. None of this would matter to Hargrave House if not for the fact that Penelope's lover, a man named Bert Broadswell, brought Hargrave House a picture that the Society Obscura took of her. And that picture, something about the nature of the picture, confirmed that the photo was taken with the Whately camera. Uh, Brian, would you mind describing again the physical process that caused that to be the case?
Sure, yeah. What I'd said was that a normal tin type is a sheet of metal,
Right.
like that. And this one, the outer rim was rigid, but the center was spongy in a way that just didn't conform to physics.
Right. And so that strangeness of that wet plate is what confirms to Hargrave House that the Society Obscura has the Whately camera. And so Hargrave House has decided to look into this. Now, you can try to rescue Penelope Levy or get her back from wherever she was transported to, or not. You could just maybe want to get your hands on the Whately camera as well. But in any case, there's only a single question here. But the question has two opportunities that unlock if you answer it. The question is, what circumstances will cause someone photographed by the camera to disappear? And the two opportunities are reverse engineer the process to bring Penelope Levy back, that resolves the threat, or use the camera to transport yourself to the other dimension and make contact with the entity there. Hargrave House's research seems to indicate that the Whately camera is possessed by an entity of some sort, which is what's causing all this. So, in any case, that is sort of where we're at. A good portion of the session was spent hanging out at the Society Obscura. Very little investigation got done. it was mostly Dr. Tagore hooking up with the manservant in a closet, and Mr. Gennadios sort of like feeling his Greek god oats, and Willoughby just trying to balance everything, keep it all sort of as much on track as possible. It was a great session, super fun. Very little investigation got done, but we do have some clues. We have a few clues. Um, there was a person whose fingernails were stained. This was seen at the Turkish baths again, but this time we got a view higher than the knee of this person. Their fingers were stained in a way that shows that they are part of an upper level initiation in the Society Obscura, and this is maybe a clue of like how they sort of use the Whately camera, like they use it for some sort of higher purpose or some sort of advanced photography purpose. Two members of the Society Obscura during a party were heard speaking in a dead language, even a language that Mr. Gennadios didn't understand. There's an albino peacock in a crystal cage in the Society Obscura upstairs. We don't know if it's named Duquesne or not, but in any case, it's there. And there is in one of the rooms a bronze pyramid that is warm to the touch. And this was explained by one of the members that this is involved. This pyramid is part of the process of making the camera work, because basically they all know what the camera can do, but they don't know how to do it, because essentially the creature communicates with them in dreams and then makes them forget. So they know like little bits and pieces, but they don't know the whole process. That's what you're trying to help figure out. And so that's a lot. This is probably the most complex threat of all the threats. Does it all make sense, Fraser?
I think so.
Yeah, okay, good. It helped me too to sort of talk it out as well. We have two other active threats as well. That hasn't changed. Figg's Pigs and the Creature of Cremorne Gardens. Now, Figg's Pigs we've made some progress on. The first question has been answered. What kind of animal does Patrick Figg think he is? Patrick Figg thinks he's a dog. And now the opportunity is unlocked to lure him out in the open and capture him, or destroy him, I suppose. The complication, though, there is that you have learned that Patrick Figg has been taken in by a little girl, and he's living in the family's backyard. And so if you're going to bring in Patrick Figg, you have to think you have to deal with this dynamic. Okay. That can be done in daytime or nighttime, by the way, because the only one of these three requirements that has to be done at night is the last one, right? The final resolution of the threat has to take place at night. Still have two open questions. What type of victim does Obert Figg prefer? And what did Hortensia Figg lose that she's trying to recapture or remember? We did have an encounter with the Figgs, with Obert and Hortensia, a pretty violent one. Hortensia, it turns out, likes to use traps, and she caused a side character at Cremorne Gardens to be murdered by some collapsing beer barrels. Interesting, some details about her. She's incredibly tall, like her sons, and she is missing an arm. There's a story there, but we haven't really learned it yet. And she basically just warned Willoughby to back off, to like stop hunting her family, right? And then Obert showed up at the Society Obscura and was about to perform a beheading in the Society's Maharaja's Palace photography room. But he was stopped by Willoughby, who showed up with My Person Friday and chased him away. But in any case, that's kind of where we're at there. No extra clues on that one yet. It's the same as last time. And the Creature of Cremorne Gardens, we had some interesting things here. One more additional clue. Found in the hedge maze was a set of man's clothes hastily removed. We are still on the threshold question there. Is the fish creature real or is it a hoax? Now, some interesting stuff happened on the mastermind front as well. While Willoughby was in the hedge maze at Cremorne Gardens, they overheard a conversation in the hedge maze between a young woman, Tatiana Brathwaite, the daughter of Theodora Brathwaite, talking to her friend and basically confessing that she's been hunting humans at Brathwaite Hall. So she's into blood sport and of the worst kind. And then we later learned at the end of last session, in a bit of a plot twist, that Willoughby has a connection to Tatiana Brathwaite. Remind us what that connection was, Willoughby, from your flashback.
Before I was a servant, I actually lived on a very nice estate out in the country that just happened to be down the lane from the Brathwaites, and so we're old country neighbors.
Got it. So Theodora Brathwaite has a very cruel daughter, Tatiana Brathwaite, who is probably the more dangerous of the two of them, right? We don't really know what their relationship to each other is necessarily, but we know that Tatiana is a thing, and so that is more or less kind of where we're at. That's the kind of slightly more detailed, high level overview of what happened last time. Did I miss anything that's worth pointing out?
That's a good summary to me.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Fraser, do you have any questions?
I don't think so.
Okay, it was a lot. A lot happened. Like very few clues, but a lot of other stuff. So that's where we're at. Okay, good. Okay, fabulous. And I think we ended on dawn phase, if I'm not mistaken. We wrapped up a dawn phase, so we are right back to a day phase, if I am thinking correctly. And we have 3 active threats, so I won't be introducing any new ones, which I'm sure you're happy about. Regular scenes commence. So let's just go around the table. And I think it's been probably, we decided, oh, also, Mr. Turner, by the way, we decided that like several months, I think we decided had passed from destroying the coven to now, right? So it's a little bit of time has passed, Mr. Turner. In any case, I think from last time to now, probably a few days have passed. So let's just go around the table and find out what everyone's interested in doing. Let's have the returning characters start first, and then we'll let Mr. Turner get in. So Dr. Tagore, what do you think?
Sort of in reverse order here. I'm thinking nighttime to try and capture Patrick Figg, like lure in a dog catcher, or as Fraser suggested in the chat, lure the girl to a well and let Patrick come rescue her.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good, actually. I mean, I know you're kind of joking, but it's actually not a bad plan.
Right? Yeah. No, there's some. If he's got that kind of canine allegiance, I can see a reason to exploit that. But I think that's a night move. For day stuff, I want more clues. So I'm feeling like digging into photography, digging into Obert Figg a bit, trying to find a little more on the figs.
You're also, by the way, just as a reminder, you're all like sort of welcome to come back to the Society Obscura. I think Dr. Tagore might even be a member now. I'm not sure. But in case,
that's the initiation, right?
Yeah. And they were very keen on meeting Mr. Turner as well. So
at the very least, I'm sure I can convince Periwinkle to let me snoop around a little bit.
You'd love it. It's an entire costume party the entire time.
That's kind of my thought. What the rest do you think?
Mr. Jadios, what you're thinking for this day phase?
He's interested in pursuing the camera as well, but I think I'd also like to get on getting rid of the figs. They've started making this personal. So
yeah, and they're super dangerous.
Yeah, if during the day want to go check out the camera, he'd come along, and then at night be ready to take on Patrick.
Willoughby, what do you think?
I am very keen to clear some conditions. Last game, without Mr. Turner here, I found myself taking most of the masks and risks, and I'm super tense about the whole thing. So I would ask Mr. Gennadios into a corner for a vulnerable move at some point.
We could kick off with that.
Yeah. And then I can't actually ask for a vulnerable move with Mr. Turner, but I would like to describe the silvery void that has continued to haunt me throughout the last 2 episodes that I think only he could really
That'd be a great
appreciate.
scene too. Yeah, Mr. Turner, are you okay with framing up a vulnerable move with Willoughby?
Yeah.
What else would you like to do?
Well, I think that's 2.
Oh no,
If
I
I'm
was
clear-
asking Mr. Turner. Sorry,
Oh.
I moved on. Mr. Turner, what else would you like to do beyond that?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind going to the Obscura place, perhaps. And I like the idea of, since I had such a big ordeal last session, maybe I've been like convalescing in the home up until that point. Like I was wounded or sapped of my strength. My potency decreased.
You're just lounging in bed taking laudanum all day as you think about the witches.
Yeah, well, it paints the catch-up scene for me very well too. Like I'm just sort of lounging about and people are telling me what's been going down.
Will you be joining us anytime soon, Mr. Turner? It has been 3 months.
Yes, it's high time I got out there. So I'm of 2 minds. I definitely have a stake in the pig people who've come for me twice.
Yeah.
But Obscura sounds really cool. So
Well, we'll do the vulnerable moves and see how those go, and then we'll
Sure.
we'll kind of go play with things from there. Oh, one other thing too from last time that I think is worth pointing out. The entity that's inside the camera attacked Willoughby. There was basically it like Willoughby was looking in a mirror at the Society Obscura, and he could see dark tentacles coming up from behind him or them. And what Willoughby ended up doing was imagining a mannequin that's back at Hargrave House wearing Willoughby's outfit, and that's sort of like psychically tricked the entity. And then when they got back to Hargrave House, the mannequin was destroyed. So I thought that was a great scene. It was really fun. So okay, now so we've got a couple of vulnerable moves to frame up, and that's good. I think we'll start with Willoughby and Alexander, if that's okay. So give us the scene. It was your idea, Willoughby, so go ahead and give us the scene.
A couple of days have passed since that particular Obscura visit, correct? Then that evening, Willoughby probably spent the next 2 or 3 days trying to put their just general wardrobe back together, having, I think the tentacles probably, like, I imagine some sort of otherworldly goo is probably pretty safe. And from that visit, I still am haunted by the presence of this silvery void that seems to be tracking us. So, but in this case, I would go to Alexander, perhaps dressing him for the day and kind of sharing a conversation about, you know, what we're up to and what we're planning on the next moves and things like that. And then kind of have that take a turn into the vulnerable.
Yeah, sounds good. Is this taking place in Mr. Genadios's room, I guess?
Would make the most sense.
Okay. And what's the vice? Whose vice is it?
I proposed it, so I think it's mine.
So the brandy, I guess.
I think so, yes.
Morning time brandy, nothing wrong with that.
It is how Willoughby lives their life.
Indeed. The scene is framed. Let's take it away. Role play.
Perhaps just holding out your shirt behind you. Mr. Genadios, sir, I really don't understand what I have done to offend you. Saying to the back of your head, so I don't have to see your beautiful face in reaction to that.
And he's so practiced at this, he doesn't even need to turn. He knows where his arms need to be. He just steps back into the shirt and says, "What you've done? What do you mean?"
I step around the front and begin buttoning, and eyes very focused on the buttons. I have been trying to serve. I know that this is new for me. I've not served anyone else before. And I feel like I have done something to create this distance between us, and I do not understand.
And Alexander will be silent for a moment before saying, you have done a capital job. You've been there when you've been needed. And in truth, it's nothing you've done, just, well, it's me, Willoughby, not you.
At this point, Willoughby will meet your gaze and pull out the flask that I once stole from you and take a drink and offer it to you. Well, if that isn't a tired lie.
From a tired man, I confess. And he will take a strong sip.
I walk over and get your jacket off of the wooden stand. And once again, offer you sleeves.
And well practiced slipping in, and he'll just say, I was recently shaken in my position in the hierarchy here, and I may have acted unfairly towards you. It's not quite an apology, but it's probably the best he can do.
Willoughby, someone's ringing at the door. Clunk, 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 clunk.
Of course they are. We are not discussing this at the moment, but your position in my eyes compared to Mr. Turner is unshaken. And I briskly leave you to pick out your own cravat colors and go to the door.
There is a delivery person at the door.
Yes,
Who-
yes, what?
they say, I have a delivery for Mr. Alexander Gennadios, and he has a sapphire blue box that he's going to put in your hands.
I receive it. Is there a card?
Yes, and the card is indeed from Brathwaite Hall.
I recognize the color anywhere.
Oh, yeah, it's a very particular shade. Do you take it up to Mr. Gennadios?
I think I'll just close the door and leave it in the entryway at the moment and go back upstairs.
Good. Let's wrap up the vulnerable scene. What thing are you clearing there, Willoughby?
I am trying to clear my uneasiness. I thought perhaps by solidifying my position with my employer, I would be able to clear that.
Yeah, I'm into it. And then would you like to invite Mr. Gennadios to ask you a question about the past, or would you like to stumble on a clue?
I leave that up to Mr. Gennadios.
I feel like a clue would not be unhelpful here.
Agreed.
Which threat do you want to take it on?
The pigs are being quite a bother to my employer and myself. And
The figs.
like he said, it's personal.
Absolutely. So I'll make a generic note of clue needed here. We'll come back to that whenever. And let's cut over to Dr. Tagore before we do the other vulnerable moves scene. Dr. Tagore, what would you like to do? Something you can do sort of without Willoughby or the others at this point.
Yeah. I think poking around at the Society of Obscura.
So you sort of show up in the middle of the day then, like kind of, it's good. And Periwinkle answers the door. Oh gosh, how's Periwinkle dressed now? We've seen him in like 4 or 5 costumes already. They're always revealing. And
picturing a smoking jacket not quite tied properly or something.
No, I think he is dressed in like sort of 18th century, like Versailles, sort of like look. So powdered wig, right? He's wearing a corset, powdered wig, like high-heeled shoes and like knee-high stockings, right? And he says, "Oh, Dr. Tagore, you've just caught us in the middle of a session in the Versailles room."
Periwinkle's always
He has no
delight to
shirt,
see
but
you.
he does have cuffs.
Periwinkle, it's a delight to see you as always. I'm sorry to interrupt the shoot in the Versailles room. Do you mind if I poke around a little bit? And there's some work I'd like to attend to in the darkroom, and if you can just point me that direction, I think I can find my way from there.
Oh, of course, of course. Mr. and Mrs. Abernathy, we're very, very pleased by your excitement and expertise a few nights ago, and they have given me strict instructions to let you have the run of the place. And yeah, so heading down to the dark room, I like that a lot. He'll show you down there, no problem. The rest of the household is sort of in the Versailles room, apparently. What's your approach here? What are you looking for?
Trying to see if they've got anything out of the ordinary for photography, chemistry tools. Normally you've got a safe light that's red, or you've papered over a window that's red, and who knows, but I'm almost picturing like an ultraviolet safe light or something that's just totally supernatural. Something that looks clue-like, that'll help us understand a little more of the circumstance.
Yeah, okay. Take information move with probably reason, I would gather at this point. Yeah, straight roll.
Yes. 11.
Very good. You will find a clue. We'll come back to that in a moment. Let's have the scene with Willoughby and Mr. Turner. I think that'd be good to go ahead and pop off now. Mr. Turner, why don't you set up the scene, since Mr. Willoughby's not allowed to do it, like from their direction. So what does this look like?
It needs to be one of our vices.
It does need to be one of your vices, yeah.
I do have a mirror that exudes silvery tentacles.
That one time.
Maybe it's too much, but I was thinking it would be fun to
that's literally impossible in this game for something to be too much.
I was like, well, maybe the thing that puts the spring in my step is sex with the dark entity, and Willoughby safe wording it or something. like putting, or maybe having like a pull curtain so that like when it comes time you turn the sex off, basically.
By like opening the curtains, is that the idea?
Or closing the curtains, because it's all about the light.
Oh, that's right. You have sort of a light focus. That's right. Yeah.
Is there something about cleaning up the tentacular ooze that's left over from before?
We'll leave that off screen. I love it. What's the entity that you're reaching out to here, Mr. Turner?
Just another fallen angel. Or that's what I believe them to be anyway.
I'm curious, how do you make contact with them? Like, how do you set this up? What does this look like?
I think it would have to mirror what I did in the past with the flashback, where I literally pray to them and have a candle in darkness, and then I open up all the windows to let in the light, and it's sort of like it would be almost like shutter effect from all of the windows having like canoning me with the light, so that it's almost like obscure to the viewer again, where we don't know what's true and what's not. But I definitely believe I'm getting it on with an angel.
I think that's probably I think we should do Rites of Salt and Smoke to make this work, the initial setup at least, and then we'll get to the vulnerable move part, whatever that looks like.
Perhaps Willoughby, in trying to identify or understand the silvery void, brought the mirror down to
Yeah,
your.
I like the idea of the mirror. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Sure.
Mhm.
I like
That's
that
going
too.
to play
'Cause
with your reflecting of light, right?
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. You could like bounce it, and then also you would be the one in control of negating the light afterwards too. Then with the mirror.
Mm. Fabulous. Rites of Salt and Smoke. So you have to roll with sensitivity. Are you doing this in the ritual room too?
No, because it's in the basement. There's no windows there. It would have to be my bedroom.
Okay. You have you'll roll sensitivity, so go ahead and do that now.
Alrighty, sensitivity 2. Use my Coriolis dice. Don't fail me now. 8 2 is 10.
10. So that's going to work fine. Choose your effect.
It will be maybe it's a banishing of a spirit or curse, but it's like the residue of the battling the witches and stuff. Like I'm sort of purging toxins from me type deal.
Oh, I like it. So this is almost like your way of like almost you're essentially like kind of self-medicating out of the funk that you were in, right? Ever since you fought the coven. So
Yeah.
that's good. I like it. So give us a scene up until the point you're comfortable.
Sure. So I think it's a perversion of Christian rituals, so I'm definitely in my priestly garb, and one by one I'm like drawing open the large windows, and then there's probably like a bay window or something like that, and as that's opened, I think Willoughby has the light from that one centralized on the mirror, and it bounces back to me, and I think it's so bright that you can't even really tell what's happening. Like on camera, it's like oversaturated. And then I lose my garb so that I'm like fully naked. And there's like a ethereal form that's in front of me, and we start coupling for a while.
Very good. Willoughby, I'd like to get your impression of this whole situation.
I think that they would see the ritual from a different perspective, obviously. I have not been able to shake this lingering sensation of something watching me for days. And I really feel like it's focused on this mirror. And so as the light hits and reflects, what I see is that same kind of shimmeringly silver void energy that has pursued me in several instances now. And that is what reaches out to Mr. Turner.
I love it. Good. That's the vulnerable move scene, right? I don't think we have to talk about anything, right? That feels good.
Unless
So
there's after, like, is there pillow talk? With,
yeah. I like the scene as it is. I think it's good. May go ahead and clear your silvery void condition. You get to clear a condition too if you wish, Mr. Turner.
I feel I am no longer angry.
Sounds good. And because it's your advice, Mr. Turner, you can invite Mr. Or Willoughby rather to ask you a question about your past, or you can stumble on a clue.
What well, the point for Sarah, you wanted to establish something about this mirror, so maybe a question?
Mm-hmm. I almost feel like the ritual itself, or that vulnerable move, like released whatever silvery void was in the mirror. So I don't even know if that is something, like I could ask
Yeah, it
you a
might be
question about.
done. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So you got what you wanted at a player level out of the scene already? Okay. Maybe I get a clue from my silvery lover whispering something.
That's pretty good.
Oh, it has to be about the Obscura then.
Well, you get to
Sure.
choose which
Yes.
of the threats are you interested in.
I like that idea of the Whately camera.
And we'll make a note here that we need a clue. And that's good. And let us return. We'll get to Mr. Janice in a moment. I want to return just to Dr. Tagore really quickly to give Dr. Tagore his clue. And you were on a 10 plus there, right, Dr. Tagore?
Correct. It was an 11 with my +2.
Yeah, great. So you're down in the dark room. You find down there a very curious thing, a glass of water, and at the bottom of the glass of water, floating at the bottom, is what appears to be mercury, or resting at the bottom. And that's your clue. What do you do after that?
Oh, I feel like before rejoining others to investigate Figg's pigs further, I should at least pause for a moment and glimpse into the Versailles room, like peek through the doorway and see how Periwinkle's doing.
So in the daytime, they don't have as many members of the society there, not like they do at their nighttime parties. But the Abernathys are there with a couple of other Society Obscura members. We'll say Lourdes and Venkat are there, and Periwinkle is there as well. Periwinkle, it turns out that part of the reason why Periwinkle is always changing into different costumes is because he is sort of the focal point. He's like the star of their compositions, right? And he's not just the houseboy. And this is kind of interesting because you got the impression at the party that for a time at least, Penelope was the star of the compositions until she disappeared at least. And so that's an interesting little detail, just a new little wrinkle in the relationship of everybody at the Society Obscura. In any case, the Versailles room is probably the most, it's probably the most convincing of all the rooms you've seen. Like they have like actual furniture and candelabras and things that look like very period, right? And because they'd have access to that sort of thing in this time period and at their level of like sort of in society. But yeah, the Abernathys are in like period dress, large like skirts and tall wigs and things like that, right? Satin breeches and whatnot. What do you do?
Try and scrutinize fingernails for a moment. Does anybody carry the signature stain? Do the Abernathys have that to other people?
Both of the Abernathys do, yeah.
Mm-hmm. What this? I'll kind of do the, pardon me, so great to see you again. Thank you for your lovely hospitality. I do hope another time I can come back for a private demonstration of your more unique cameras and their functions.
And I think Portia Abernathy, who looks like a sort of like Marie Antoinette, kind of like, or a Madame de Pompadour kind of like style dress. She turns and says, Dr. Tagore, that would be splendid, just splendid. You are, of course, welcome to come here for our nightly fetes whenever you wish.
Thank you, that is so very kind.
And she says, let's take a little break. Periwinkle will show you out. And Periwinkle does show you out. And it's a very, I think he like shows you out and says, I also look forward to seeing you again at one of our nightly fetes, Dr. Tagore.
I'll give him a little peck on the cheek as I slip out the doorway.
Indeed. Mr. Gennadios, what are you up to right now? Also, Willoughby, do you plan on Mr. Gennadios finding the package that was delivered for him?
I am deliberately not placing it in his hands and just leaving it on the table.
Mr. Gennadios, you'll notice that striking sapphire blue package almost as soon as you go downstairs.
He will probably go and start opening it before realizing that it's for him. Just, it's in his house.
You're one of those people. Good. It is for you. It is an invitation from Theodore Brathwaite to a masked ball she is holding tonight. And she has sent you a beautiful sapphire blue Venetian style mask. That's a freebie mastermind clue too, by the way. You are, whether you turn up or not is up to you. The invitation is sent. So what do you do after that?
He will start mentally running through his outfits to plan for the evening. But in the meantime, I think he would probably like to poke around with Fig's pigs if we got people on the camera.
Where are you headed then?
Where was La Hortensia seen again?
She was at Corn Gardens, but they kind of pop up everywhere. So your main place to investigate is their business and home, right? That's the place where you have access to. It's been quite a while, and Scotland Yard is starting to like wonder whether you all have the ability to get this job done, frankly. But there haven't been any more disappearances since they went missing and on the run. So it's now the place is just sort of sitting empty, right?
Feeling, I think, a little bold and probably confident in his social prowess, I think he'll go to the house of the girl who's taking the dog in.
Oh, very good. This is a sort of middle-class home in West London. And what is your approach?
Direct. He'll walk right up to the door.
I think the housekeeper answers, and she's sort of like, there's this little moment, this little heave of breath that people take when they see you for the first time, right? And she does that. She says, can I help you, sir?
Yes, the man or the woman of the house, please.
One moment, sir. And she invites you in. And I think I haven't even named these characters yet. We'll call them the Sandersons. Mrs. Sanderson, it's sort of like average-looking middle-class woman in terms of her dress, very conservative. She says, "I'm the lady of the house. How can I help you, sir?"
Well, you see, my beloved dog has gone missing, and I've reason to believe that it has been taken in somewhere around this area.
Oh, well, we haven't seen any stray dogs. And then the maid sort of like coughs a little bit. And she says, "Oh, well, that's not entirely true. Apparently, at night, our daughter has been feeding some sort of stray in the back. We've been turning a blind eye. You know, if you acknowledge these things, next thing you know, you'll find yourself having to bring it in, and it's best if we just let her take care of it back there and not have to take any responsibility for it. It seems to be safe enough, although we haven't seen the creature yet, so I couldn't say if it's yours or not by description."
Well, if it were mine, I would be remiss if I didn't warn you that he's very particular and has caused injury to small children in the past. Maybe best to keep them away.
Oh, yes. Thank you. The dog comes by fairly frequently. Perhaps you could come by tonight and grab it, or have someone else, one of your servants, come and collect it.
I understand this is unusual, but would I be able to speak to your daughter?
Oh, Yes, one moment, and they will go get the daughter. We'll come back to that. Mr. Turner, what are you up to?
The people that are free right now would be me and Willoughby.
But Dr. Tagore too. Dr. Tagore's done at the Society Obscura.
What should we do? I wouldn't mind going after the pigs peoples directly. Did we ever go back to their place to do a more thorough search?
That was
Not
my
yet.
question too. I don't
Not
think we went
yet.
to
And
the
there is a
basement.
basement. You haven't gone to the basement yet. So.
Well, I like basements.
Yeah, I think we should do that. Happy to meet you there.
Sure.
All three of you, or just Dr. Tagore and Mr. Turner at this point?
I am saving myself for any potential popping in and out of scenes, but I feel like with my vulnerable moves, I'm good.
Okay, well, so we'll just do Mr. Turner and Dr. Tagore. It sounds fine. I mean, you can go to the pie shop. It was a Scotland Yard had basically kind of like given you access to it, but that was several months ago. They thought you were going to be able to help find the figs, and you haven't done it yet. So now it just sort of sits idle. And I think when you arrive, there's a boy there who is clearly watching you from across the street. Dr. Tagore, you have a lot of familiarity with street urchins because a lot of the work you do. And you can tell that this boy is keeping an eye on the place and an eye on you. What do you do?
Ooh. At the moment, discreetly let Mr. Turner know, there's a young urchin over there who's apparently a lookout. Don't know if we want to address him directly or do the thing where we sneak around and pop up behind him later.
Yes, the classic pincer. If he or they are going to report back to the figs, it would behoove us to follow them or interrogate them in some way.
A little bit of both. Maybe I dawdle in front of the store, look through the glass, let you sneak around and collar them.
Sure.
If you start dawdling in front of the store, especially if you look like you're kind of looking through the windows or something, the boy will approach you.
The reverse pincer.
Indeed. This boy has, I would describe it as a hard look for his age. And when he approaches, you realize he has an eye-watering smell. But he seems friendly enough. He says, did you know the figs?
Oh, barely. I've heard rumors, but
well, I like them. I'm sad they're gone.
Did you ever have any of their pies?
I know what you're here for. You've heard the rumors that they cooked people in those pies.
Yeah, I've heard that. It seems scandalous and like one of those things that might be rooted in truth. You never know.
Well,
how did you know the family?
Well, I hung around. I was sort of, I occasionally ran errands for them. So they put people in their pies. What of it? Maybe those people deserve to be put in pies. That's what I say. Did you ever consider that?
So you ran errands. You were the little piggy who went to market. I see. How long were you in the family's employ?
Well, I wasn't an official employee, but I was more of, let's say, itinerant labor. I would occasionally be recruited for just sweeping up and that sort of thing. Mrs. Figg was really nice. She was the nicest, I think. But I liked Patrick well enough too. I'm the only person that Patrick actually spoke to and didn't bark at like a dog.
That's fascinating. You have a skill with animals, or people animals.
He says,
So I wanted to
"Well,
get in touch with La Hortensia. Where could I find her?
couldn't say. But, well, if you do find them, tell them I miss them.
All right, what's your name, little child?
Oh, I'm Rag.
I'll give Rag, I don't know, some coins and suggest the name of a soap vendor I know.
What are you up to, Mr. Turner?
Maybe while this is happening, I'm looking for an entry that
You
isn't
can- yeah, you
straight
can,
front.
oh yeah, you can go into the back, no problem. Yeah.
Sure. And I'll be waiting, I suppose. Lighting a candle.
While you're waiting, anything you're doing there? You walk in through the kitchen. We've already talked about the kitchen in a previous session. We described it as sort of bundles of herbs and garlic hanging from the ceiling. There's an enormous brick oven, a light dusting of flour on most surfaces. And so what do you do while you're waiting on Dr. Tagore to finish chatting with Rag?
Maybe just do a little search and let him in through the front, I suppose.
Yeah, sounds good. Do information move with reason.
Okay, reason. My reason is 1. 7.
You are looking around. And you notice something that is, well, give me a moment. You're looking around and you find, is this a clue we have already? Let me make sure it's not a clue we have already. No, it's not. You're maybe opening cabinets, looking in bins and things, and you find in one small bin a very carefully folded, bundled up length of blonde hair. That's your clue. How does it make you feel?
Probably wary, because I think I would. My first thought is that it would be used in like a ritual or something like that, like some weird tokenism that they use for some dark ritual.
Intriguing. Good. I have to give you a complication on this clue, and I will at some point, but let's take a 5-minute break for now. Okay, we're back. Mr. Turner, I want to just check in with you briefly. As you reach into the bin to pull out this length of carefully tended to blonde hair, at the bottom of the bin are a number of poisonous scorpions and vipers. And that's happening right now. We'll come back to that. Unless you want to put on a mask, of course. But
It's been a while.
Mr. Gennadius, this girl comes down. She's like 13 or 14. And she's like at that age that girls get at where they're like really weirdly big despite their age, and she comes down, right? And she's like, can I help you, sir?
He'll put on his winningest smile and totally talk to her like she's 3 and not 13, and he'll hinge at the waist and put his hand on his thighs and say, I've heard you've been spending time with a doggy in the evenings.
She gets a little nervous because she probably has deduced that you know what she knows and what she hasn't been telling her parents, that it's a person. And she says, well, yes, yes. There hasn't been a dog that comes around, and I've been feeding him, but mother would never let me keep him. And in any case, I don't want to. I'm happy just to help. He's a very sweet boy.
He can be, yes, but he is prone to nervous outbursts. Have you
Oh.
seen any of that from him?
No, no, he seems perfectly sweet and loving to me.
Well, I'm sure it helps that you're being so kind to feed him at night.
Does the dog belong to you, sir?
He does, yes. And I have been searching all over for him.
Oh, well, I suppose you should come by tonight and collect him. What will you do once you have him again?
Oh, I will ensure that he is well cared for and given plenty of room to run about.
Okay. Okay. Could I trouble you to perhaps get permission to come visit him from time to time?
That could certainly be arranged, yes.
Oh, all right then. Well, he usually comes by after dark. I don't know what he does during the day.
Well, I'm happy to hear that you've been taking care of him, and I will be sending some associates of mine to just to make sure that we find him and he's doing okay.
The mother interjects at this point because this is a strange conversation, right? And she says, well, if that's all settled then, sir, we have a lot of things to attend to in the household right now. We will await your associates.
And I'm sure they're all very important. He'll start backing towards the door. Thank you for your time and for your help, miss.
Let's cut over to Mr. Turner. Mr. Turner, vipers and scorpions and centipedes, oh my, and they're crawling up your hand. What do you do?
A Janus mask.
Which one are you marking? Past or future, or Mask of the Pig?
Oh, a wild card. Why not?
Mask of the Pig. Let's take a look at the Mask of the Pig. This is a fun one. Janus Mask is marked. The Mask of the Pig. Each hunter, all of you, narrates a dream about the pagan swine god Mok. Did Mok demand a sacrifice of riches, status, or blood? What did you sacrifice? You can tell us later, or if you want to think on your dream for a bit. Might be maybe a nice thing to do during the next dawn phase even.
Sure.
But there are no, we rewind, there are no vipers or scorpions or anything else in the bin, and you have the clue free and clear. And I think that, Dr. Tagorov, is there anything you want to do over here before we sort of wrap up this scene?
Well, I thought we were going to investigate the basement of the
Yes.
pigs. But in terms of the bin full of centipedes and scorpions that are not there, I'll just, I don't know, I'm picturing Mr. Turner swooning a little bit with illusory vipers or something. Like, oh, you're right, you need some smelling salts.
Oh no, I just thought I saw something.
If you go down to the basement, you'll find that the walls are covered in streaks of dried blood. There are a preponderance of bones all over the place with bits of dried meat still on them. And written on the walls with what appears to be ash, as you move the candle across to read it, it reads, "All praise the great He Sao." And we have a paint the scene here for everyone. This is where the Figg's victims met their grisly ends. Looking around, how do you know the kills were quick and painless?
There's like one of those tools that they use on pigs, except it's been redesigned for humans. Like, I can't remember what it's called, but it's specifically so it like severs the neck from the head or something like that. And so instead of it being probably much thicker or rounded or whatever, it's been like sized down to a human neck.
Grizzly? Sarah?
To that end, based on the blood splatter that hasn't been washed off the walls, you can see with the high arc that severing must have happened very quickly.
And there's no like tools for binding or holding them down with any kind of strength, so no one's struggling.
It's a good, like a negative space clue. I like that.
Yeah, I was kind of going a similar direction. I was picturing, this is so gory, I'm disturbed with myself here, but like an inverted massage table where your head would be down and like you were saying, no struggling, something to that event, almost a voluntary situation.
Dr. Tagore and Mr. Turner, how are you feeling upon seeing this grisly sight?
To me, this is a travesty of galvanization and the chance to rejuvenate flesh. Like there's better use for this tissue, better use for these tools. I'm kind of dismayed at merely baking them into a pie.
Take the condition profoundly disappointed.
I think I'm just gonna go with good plain old terror. I think it's blood curdling.
I like it. Take terrified. Dr. Tagore, what do you do once you get down there?
I was hoping to find a little more about La Hortensia and or Obert. Maybe there is some evidence here that will let us know a little more about what Obert's preferred victims are. Just trying to poke and prod to see if maybe there's a pattern in the bones, like the bones are all children bones, or God knows who had a tattooed anchor as a child. I don't know, but
I think that's fabulous. And you have beneath the skin, so I think that applies here. You're not examining a whole corpse, but you're examining remnants, which I think counts. You get to ask me two of the following. How did this person die? I'll answer with a clue. That's fairly obvious, but I'll still give you a clue. What would an untrained eye overlook here? I'll give you a clue there too. And can I take a body part for the child with? So
we'll go with the top two, because the figs do not meet my standard for child body parts. I have a higher level.
Well, there's not much flesh left on these, fresh flesh anyway, left on these. How'd the person die? What would an untrained eye overlook here? But basically, I owe you two clues. Let me just go into the document and find something.
And then I do have a mechanical question for the GM while you're looking.
Sure, go for it.
What if we would like to solve or at least find a solution to one of the questions of Figg's Pigs. I'm still unclear of when. Do we just like raise a flag?
Answer questions. Just it takes place out of the phase structure. We just do it whenever. So it's
Okay.
sort of a slightly meta level thing. So yeah, just whenever you all want to do it, we just do it, and it doesn't matter what phase it is or anything. Your clues. One of the skeletal hands you find, Dr. Tagore, is still wearing a wedding ring. A pearl wedding ring on the wedding ring finger. I think I don't know how an untrained eye would have missed it, except to say probably just that no one's looked. So that's basically kind of where we're at, I think, with that. And the other clue you find, you know that these people were sort of killed in this quick, brutal manner, and that they were drained of their blood, and the copious amount of blood stains all over the room verifies this. There's also piles of clothing in the room. And as you examine the remains of these people and the clothing that they were wearing, you realize that it's not actually, their clothing is not stained with blood, or it was at some point, but that it's not red because it was stained with blood. All of these people were wearing red. A striking and unusual color in this day and age for just common wear. But there are like red hats, red cravats, red trousers, that sort of thing. But those are your two clues for Figg's Pigs.
What we're digging in that, we still have a dangling clue, I think, from the vulnerable move.
We do. We need one from Fraser. You get to create a clue that you stumbled on, or it was whispered to you by the angel. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I have a fairly good theory on what type of victims Obert likes or prefers. So I don't know if that plays into what we discover.
Yeah, I mean,
Little too
you can, no, it's not works. You can totally, that's the point of this, is you can totally like angle things in your direction, right? What is your theory, at least?
Well, I am working on the theory that Obert prefers sailors in general, people who he finds in and amongst the port, maybe sometimes people attached to a particular ship. I'm thinking of tying in like the salt shoved down someone's neck kind of has a definite nautical theme to it. The
anchor tattoo.
Yep, the anchor tattoo. And then also the mouse skeleton found behind an eye patch might have a little bit of a like 2 on the nose for a pirate, but he might be dressing his victims too.
Yeah, it's good. So Mr. Turner, if you want to think of a clue that is whispered to you that helps confirm this, that would be helpful.
That, or if you want to come up with a La Hortensia clue, because I'd be at a +1 because it's a fairly easy question.
Yeah, these are super easy questions. They're only complexity 2.
Well, my clue is for the camera though, right?
Oh, I thought you were doing Figg's Pigs. Was it the camera?
Was Figg's Pigs? No, that was because of my vulnerable boom move with Gennadios.
Oh, so you're doing Figg's Pigs. Oh, okay.
Sorry, yeah.
Oh, well, then you get to define it.
No wonder I had a theory. I recall in the time of exploring the upstairs of the house that I found many fine but well-worn items of clothing in La Hortensia's closet. They just were worn through, gloves, fine lace, that sort of thing that obviously was mended many times over.
And so handling Mr. Gennadios's fine clothing is what reminded you of that. Okay, I like it. Cool. La Hortensia has fine but worn clothing. Is it sized to her or is it other people's?
It wouldn't be entirely sized to her. Some things are, some things aren't.
Yeah, because you would know she's very tall, so you would know. You'd be like, oh, that's definitely her now, right? Yeah.
They look like long gloves, but they would only come to here.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Also, I'm not sure how like having only one arm would affect the way you wear your clothes as well. So that's another thing too. Okay, good. Well, you've got a fair number of clues there. Do you want to go ahead and define your Waitley camera clue then, Fraser?
Yeah, I'm thinking that they whispered something about bloody tin, in the sense that well, I guess I shouldn't define it too much, but like I'm thinking desecrated tin or bloody tin, like some sort of like the metal itself has been
It made him
tampered
pure.
with. Yeah.
Interesting. Does this make sense, Brian?
Oh, in a supernatural way, I like the idea of playing with like Quicksilver, sort of the angelic being,
Mm-hmm.
the pure metal versus corrupt metal is pretty fascinating. I like it a lot.
They
If you want
whisper to
something
you about.
scientifically accurate, I'll give you a different answer.
Oh no, I love it. They whisper to you about corrupted metal, so that's good. Good. We'll leave it more vague than that. We'll put corrupted. Okay, good. Well, a fair amount of good progress then, especially on Figg's Pigs. So do we want to go ahead and try to make a go at this theory about Obert and sailors? So we're saying that the anchor tattoo, the eye patch, the mouse in the eye socket and the eye patch, and the salt are all working, that are all sort of like are hints that like Obert prefers sailors. Okay, that's super interesting. That's a +1 on the roll. Does anybody have a disagreement about the theory, or is everybody okay with this?
I think it's cool.
I kind of also want to fold in the red clothing clue.
How so?
Just because I think perhaps his fascination with sailors comes from maybe he was on a ship or served as a sailor briefly, or a soldier sailor, like in the nautical navy sense. And that was the color of the uniform. And he's still kind of flashing back to that a little bit when he chooses victims.
Interesting. I like that. So the red details in a particular service uniform. Okay, I like that. I'm into it. And so that puts you at +2 then.
Yes.
Good. Yeah, take it away.
Woof. 6 and a 1. That's 7 +2 is 9. Is that right?
Yep. So correct, but complication. Either with let's just read the exact rules so I'm not getting it wrong. I promise I wrote this game. I'll add an unwelcome complication to the answer, and or pursuing the opportunity will be more dangerous. I think we're going to go with pursuing the opportunity will be more dangerous. And by more dangerous, like hyper dangerous, because they're really dangerous just in general. So
I would love to check a Janus mask.
Okay, that'll bump it to 10, making it a fairly straightforward process of catching Obert. Which Janus mask are you taking, past or future?
I'm going to mark a mask of the past.
Okay. You can hold it or do it now. It's up to you.
I think I will wait at the moment.
Doesn't
Sounds-
everybody have to mark it for a clue? No.
Oh, you do. That's right. For answer a question, everyone has to do it to bump it up.
Oh.
Thanks,
Oh.
Which
Fraser.
I am happy to do.
Yeah, everyone has to mark if in order to get it bumped.
That might change things.
The same
Gentlemen?
mask?
No, but just the Janus mask in general. Yeah. Either past or future.
It's fine.
So-
These guys are pretty dangerous. If we don't mark a mask now, they're probably gonna hurt us enough. We have to mark a mask in a moment.
Yeah.
My thoughts exactly.
They came for me and I was scared.
How are you feeling, Mr. Jadios? You going into this plan?
Yeah, sure. I'll mark Mask of the Past.
All right. So we got loads of Janus masks to do later on. Well, I think this day phase is pretty well wrapped up. I'm not sure what else there is to do here. And so let's go to the lovely, lovely dusk. Our dusk phase is going to take place in let's do the cluttered basement. Have we done the basement yet? It's not marked off yet, so I assume we haven't done it yet. Since we're in basements today.
Isn't that where we found a bunch of our like weapons and things like that?
That wasn't Hargrave House. You're talking about the unseen, right, Jason?
No, I'm talking about Hargrave House. This is the one where
Oh, I'm so sorry.
you could have
Oh.
found like stuff from long dead hunters who used to live in Hargrave House. Did we do
Yeah,
that
we
one?
did that.
Okay, I thought we did. It's just
That's
not
where I got my
marked.
Derringer.
That's right. We just didn't mark it. Okay.
Yeah, everybody got their weapons.
There
Instead,
be witches.
instead, we shall do. We're getting pretty close to having these all done. Let's do the servants' quarters. Not sure why you all would go down there, but here we are. These rooms are. Oh, actually, first let's resolve playbook moves. Playbook moves that are resolved during the dusk phase. Do we have any? Basically, you have to decide if you're going to do resurrectionists and night work. Dr. Tagore. So, yeah.
I think no to night work because we got Patrick to round up and other things. And resurrectionists, heck yeah, I want some body parts. Send those guys out again. They
All right. So
hopefully
they're
they did it right this time.
they are out
Bring me a
there.
torso.
And then unquenchable thirst. I thought that was dawn for some reason. Is it dusk? It might be. Oh, yeah, it is. You don't have any conditions anyway, so you're good. Okay. So with all that said, now let's do the servants' quarters. So the servants' quarters in Hargrave House are mostly empty nowadays, as given the place's history, very few people want to actually work here. They have most frequently been used as a place for trysts between the house's residents. What here reminds you of that?
I think there have actually been red sheer cloths placed over like any sort of like light sources, maybe hung up on a frame for a candle behind, like muted lighting.
Like a mood lighting.
I think something heavy hangs on the back of the door that works to dampen the sounds within the room.
I'm picturing in a corner like an abandoned bottle of wine and a couple of glasses that are tipped over, some undergarments, but they're layered in dust at this point, and the wine you can tell wasn't finished, but has at this point just desiccated to like a thick residue.
The table in the little eating area is askew with some fingerprints just under the top lip that may or may not have come from Alexander at some point.
Very nice. Very nice. All right, let's go around the table. Everyone gets to say what they're going to do tonight. No discussion, just speak.
I go round up a little dog child, bring him in.
Patrick Figg.
Oh yes, I definitely want to take down the Figs. And that guy's the one that, oh no, Obert was the one that kind of assailed
Obert's
me.
the dangerous one, yeah. Patrick's not even dangerous. Patrick just believes
True.
he's a dog.
If we went all hands on deck for Obert, I'm certainly down for him as more of a threat. Either one.
Well, we might as well get rid of one threat. And also, it might derange Obert enough that when we tackle him, maybe we have an advantage over him or something.
We've answered the question about Obert so that we can take action on that, right?
Yep. You can stop Obert too. Yeah.
Can we do both in one night phase, or do we have to choose?
If you split up, probably.
Ooh.
Remember, there's no danger in splitting the party. You all literally can't die. So
Something about old dogs and new tricks about splitting the party. I'm not quite there.
fair enough. Willoughby, what are you going to do tonight?
I read the card and know exactly who the package was from. And so I would at first think to watch Mr. Gennadios to see how he's dressed when he leaves for the evening to kind of figure out what I'd be doing. But I also feel like having solved the Obert mystery, I should figure out a way to lure him to us, either to Hargrave House or to a spot on the docks.
Mm-hmm. So sounds like Willoughby's going to work on Obert, depending on what Mr. Gennadios does, but more or less that's what it sounds like. Dr. DeGore is doing Patrick. Mr. Turner?
I wouldn't mind doing Obert if Patrick is just benign.
Yeah, Patrick's not super dangerous. So, Mr. Gennadios, are you going to Brathwaite Manor or Brathwaite Hall?
Yes.
Very good.
Off to the party.
I will still be following for Obert, and we'll still do that. I'll just see if I dash out at a moment's notice.
Indeed. Janice Mask prompts. We have a whole passel of them. I think we should do Mask of the Pig ones during the dawn phase because you all would have had a chance to sleep, right? And dream about the swine god, the great Hisao Mok. I think instead we should wrap up all these other ones. So let's, whoever wants to go first, tell us which one you marked and go ahead and narrate away.
So I marked one, I just marked the Cosmic Passage, and then the other one I did flashback to young adulthood that shows a time when you use your supernatural affinities for selfish reasons. I think my father, who I believe I established was like a pastor and was making me pray, and that's when I came to the angels, essentially. I think he falls on very hard times as the church is involved in, I don't know, probably a scandal. And I think that's when we first see Turner use Beacon in the Night to literally leave his family behind and just completely abandon his father, the pastor, and walk into dark/light recesses forever.
Very good. Who wants to go next?
I marked the Mask of the Past, narrate a flashback to the time you had a terrible fight with the person you lost. I'm picturing me arguing with Dottie in that, who does mom love more sort of argument. In the courtyard outside the house, almost that childlike back and forth with more emotion than evidence. And then kind of from a window, we hear that, and it's mom watching this argument. And so there's just absolutely no resolution to it. We both storm off mad at each other.
Good.
I also chose the Mask of the Past and to narrate a flashback that shows when you cruelly discarded the artist. And I think Alexander had been putting up with the artist's attentions for several years as almost a bit of duty, but he eventually had amassed a bit of wealth of his own and wanted a piece commissioned of himself and his new lover that the man learned about in the posing.
Good. Willoughby?
I also marked Mask of the Past. I once again need to narrate a flashback to my young adulthood. Before I was a servant, that it shows my most significant professional triumph. And before meeting Mr. Gennadios Willoughby, they were a gentleman thief. They flitted in and out of social circumstances to find targets. Previously, this was me sneaking out of a window carrying a bag of silver. That was maybe I was 14 or so. Now we see Willoughby as they are now, maybe only a year ago, at a masked ball, perhaps, chatting with people, having just recently been offered an introduction to Alexander Gennadios, in which I have a target in mind, and it's probably one of my most greatest schemes.
I love it. Now I will be introducing the unseen, but before I do, I want to clarify on Willoughby and Mr. Turner's action. Are you going to be are you setting a trap at the docks, or are you trying to lure Obert to you? You going there? Like what's your kind of plan, basically?
Mr. Turner is the most beloved.
Yeah, that's true. I could wear some red and they'll come hither.
You get a sailor's outfit with a red
Tired.
kerchief. Very good, very good. But where though? Like where are you going to be hanging out?
The jokes make sense, I think, if
Okay.
he's looking for sailors.
All right. Sounds good. Just want to clarify that. The unseen. Our unseen for this night phase is going to be called we're going to do the Empire Club. This is on the second line of unseens. The Empire Club is situated in a grand townhouse just off St. James's Square. Membership is popular among young aristocratic sons of lower birth order, many of whom have traveled to or profit from holdings abroad. Select invitations have been granted to those of less esteemed breeding who have managed to make their mark and a small fortune overseas. It boasts card games till the early hours of the morning, cooks from the four corners of the world, and plentiful bedrooms for those far from home or avoiding their family. Tall tales and business deals alike are shared over brandy and cigars. Everyone does the paint the scene prompt. And then the second, third, and fourth prompt I'm going to assign to Fraser, Brian, and Drew. So let's take our 5-minute break now so that you all can think about your prompts, and we'll come back and begin the night phase. The Empire Club. Beyond the wood-paneled walls and leather armchairs, what signs of masculinity and power are on display here?
There are many game hunter trophies attached to the walls, including a lion that looks taxidermied to have just leapt, just the front half of it from the wall itself.
I think there's lots of large pictures of club members with actual attribution to some of the members, and they're all like senators and prominent people and whatnot.
Members of parliament here, yeah.
There's not just like trophies of the animal sort, there's a lot of like boxing trophies and all the traditionally masculine sports.
Like fencing.
Sure. Is that? Yeah.
It's an aristocratic sport, if nothing else.
You kind of did a survey of all the art hanging on the walls. You realize at a certain point there's not a landscape to be seen. They're all pictures of somewhere in there's a manly man doing manly things.
Very good. Let's start with Dr. Tagore. Dr. Tagore, you've been sent to this home in on the West End to fetch Patrick Figg. So what's your approach here? Well, let's say you're there at the house. Now what? They let you in even.
I mean, all right. I'm picturing two things that I don't know if Scotland Yard is actually affiliated with the dog catchers. They're probably not. But I'm picturing that somehow I've got a connection that I can have waiting out back, essentially a dog catcher with the comically large net on a stick, just in case we need it. And then from the front of the house, approaching the family, oh my goodness, I've forgotten their name already. Sanderson? That's not right.
They were Sandersons, although I didn't name any of them.
Okay.
Yeah, their first name.
And I'm just going to say, hey, I'm here on behalf of Mr. Tenardios. He's otherwise occupied this evening, and he sent me to resolve the matter of this missing dog. And I'm told that the pet has a relationship with your daughter, and so if it's all right, if we could just sort of step into your backyard for a moment, and I can help take care of the problem for you.
Mr. Sanderson, sort of squat man with a great handlebar mustache, says, of course, we knew you were coming to fetch this animal. I haven't seen the animal myself yet. Is it very big?
No, but it has a reputation that precedes it. It's best handled discreetly, I think, for everyone involved.
And what is your connection to all of this, if you're not the dog owner yourself?
Oh, no, I've worked with Mr. Gennadios on many different matters over the years.
So you're like a sort of errand boy or associate? Or
I'd say more of a lieutenant.
A lieutenant. Very good, very good. I'm a former military man myself, so I understand what that's like. You are, he says, well, then I shall grab Cassandra and we shall go to the back. And that's the daughter's name. And they're going to go to they'll take you back there to find Patrick, or to wait for Patrick, to lure him in. And I think we'll just pause there for that moment. Willoughby and Mr. Turner. Mr. Turner, describe your getup, first of all.
I think I try to look like, well, do we know what the victims are like? Do we know much about the victims? What they were wearing?
We know that they're probably men, they're sailors, and they wear, and red is important to Obert in some way. Right?
But we don't know if they're like status or anything matters. Like if I was like a grubby sailor or well kept or anything.
Willoughby, this was your theory. What do you think?
I imagine Willoughby would already be dressing him as he's having these like.
So Willoughby, how do you address him?
Kind of that like, almost, you have a nice coat, but you definitely have been out to sea for at least 6 months, and either a red coat or a splash of red in like either a red hat or a scarf, depending on what Willoughby pulls out of the closet.
So you are down at the docks, probably We said that, so the pie shop's in Shoreditch. I don't know enough about London to know like what would be the nearest docks on the Thames there, but we'll say you're at that one. And the what are you doing once you arrive? I mean, I think it's nighttime, but there's still quite a lot of activity, like people singing and singing shanties and rolling dice and stumbling between bars and that kind of thing.
I probably have like
Clubs.
a wig on and a hat or something, because otherwise Obert might recognize me. I'm probably trying to be. Oh, I'm definitely mixing with the drunkest of them, so they can't tell that I'm not an actual sailor. It just going with the songs, but you could kind of tell that I don't know them all quite. I'm like joining in on the chorus, but other times just hanging back. And I think I'm trying to make it seem as if I'm a good target by drinking quite a lot, but not to the point where I'm too inebriated that I wouldn't be able to strike.
Are you allowing the dark entities to work through you in some way in order to draw Obert to you, to maybe sort of massage Obert in your direction?
Oh, that sounds good.
How so?
Um, oh, maybe after I put on a good enough show, I literally go wandering under street lamps, plucking in and out of the light, trying to be a beacon as best I can.
Willoughby, while Mr. Turner is pretending to be a sailor in order to attract Obert, what are you doing? Where are you staked out? What's going on?
At first, Willoughby dressed rather conservatively for that. And they're all in black, but there aren't the typical feminine touches that they usually work into their wardrobe. They're looking very just plain, and maybe looking a tiny bit uncomfortable with that. Originally, I thought that I might insinuate myself into one of the dice games, maybe across the dock from where Mr. Turner was putting on a drunken show. But as he moves down the docks, I have no choice but to kind of follow, perhaps on the other side, kind of darting in and out of gaslights, trying to remain in the shadow as opposed to in the light, maybe dodging around the bow of a ship where the prow actually might be sculpted like a giant lion, if we're going to go there.
I love it. It's good. Oh, describe the prow again.
Oh, I imagine the prow of the ship being the head and mane of a lion, with a giant roar. Yeah.
Good. Mr. Gennadios, Brathwaite Hall. Trip to the country. Takes you about probably a good, by carriage, probably a good solid 30 minutes to an hour ride out into the country. And you see Brathwaite Hall, and it is, I would say, pretty common as far as these old English country homes go. Very big. It probably has dozens and dozens of rooms, and everything is neatly maintained. You know Theodora to be something of a maverick in London society. She's displayed this to you numerous times, and you've heard stories. She used to be a pirate queen, for example. But Brathwaite Hall was not originally Brathwaite Hall. She purchased it at a certain point. And so it still has this sort of very like conservative English aristocratic, almost stodginess to it, at least from the outside. You are let in by an incredibly ancient butler who introduces himself as Elmore. And in the hall, where people are already gathering for the party, and they're wearing Venetian masks and sort of period costume. We'll talk about what you're wearing in a moment, but I want to just know, what do you see in the hall that indicates that Theodora has made Brathwaite Hall her own?
The embroidered wallpaper is like a damask pattern, but it's all sapphire, not just in color, but like sapphire gem patterned. And that theme is everywhere.
She does like that color. And Elmore says, my mistress is very, very happy that you could make it, Mr. Gennadius.
I am
Although I'm
delighted.
probably not supposed to say your name out loud. Everyone is in disguise.
Quite right.
Would you mind waiting here in the hall? She will want to know that you are here straight away and come speak to you.
He'll just incline his head with no intention of actually waiting if he's given the opportunity to leave.
What do you do? And how are you dressed?
He is wearing the mask, of course, and a sapphire embroidered kurta, and over well-fitting trousers and kind of strappy sandals. Very fancy, but probably looks out of place. And he's okay with that. And
Yeah,
it's also kind of sheer.
Oh, good. Yeah, I think it's a bit of a scandal, right? I mean, people, you are all eyes are drawn to you, right? Especially if there's like sheer panels involved. And at a certain point, as you're sort of wandering about, you will see Theodora coming down the stairs. She looks like a brilliant, like her dress has like a beautiful like neck piece, right, of like brilliant blue feathers, right, and her mask is much more understated, almost like a cat burglar mask, like very simple. And she comes down and she says, Mr. Gennadius, I'm so happy to see you. Although, I guess we're not supposed to say who we are.
And whose acquaintance might I be making this evening? Do an exaggerated bow.
She walks in very close to you. She says, I must confess, I have something of an ulterior motive in bringing you here tonight.
Oh, that intrigues me.
We'll cut from there. The Empire Club. Fraser. A boisterous game of cards is played by some of the young bucks. Amidst the bluff and bluster, how do we see the differences between those with great wealth and noble blood and those with only one or the other?
So I think it's twofold. One, they have to mark their status with colors of ties that they wear. And then also we see that people, as a way of kind of funding the club, they have to buy their decks themselves. And when they play tricks, then the other person who wins takes the cards and they have to repurchase the cards that were taken from them at probably exorbitant prices. So maybe there's like a captain who's playing with a dash of red and he has to when he plays, there's like a member of parliament or something like that who takes the cards forever, and he kind of like looks longingly at the side where there's like the person who's has a cart of cards to sell. And there's like aces and jacks, and they're all being sold at crazy prices.
Love it. Dr. Tagore, you're in the back garden of this family, the Sandersons, with the father and the daughter. And the daughter, Cassandra, is on her knees in the damp grass near the fence. And she's sort of like whispering. She's like, are you there? Are you there? I'm so excited to see you. I have something for you. And she pulls out like a bit of dried, like cured meat or something, right?
Let me jump in there. I've got a thing that you'll like. Dr. Tagore reaches in and pulls out some butcher paper, and you might expect from his prior work a human leg or something, but instead it's just a tidily wrapped pork chop. He says, perhaps this is a better bait, and hands it over to Cassandra.
She says, oh, he'll love that. She says, and the father can't hear. He's standing back a little ways. It's just you and Cassandra at the fence. She says, if you don't mind my asking, does he have a name? I've been calling him Wilfred.
Wilfred is a fabulous name. I'm told he has a given name of Patrick, but I think he's flexible on these things.
Well, then perhaps I shall call him by that name. Patrick, are you there? Patrick? And you hear some rustling on the other side of the fence in the brush. What do you do, Dr. Tagore?
I'm going to step into the shadows for a moment and let Cassandra kind of hopefully bait him into the yard.
She turns to you and she says, very quietly now, while waiting on Patrick, he speaks to me. Like, speaks to me.
What does he tell you? Like he has to have incredible knowledge of the city given the way he moves about.
Well, I think he's the way he is because of something that happened to him and his family.
It's true. There's a wide range of human circumstance in London, and
no, this wasn't in London.
Mm.
This was years ago when he was a puppy. His brother and mother, they were trapped in a cave-in. Apparently, his father was working the mines in the north. And they were trapped for days and days, just the three of them, his brother and his mother, and they were going to starve. And so that the children didn't starve, his mother forced the boys to eat her arm. She told him to pretend like he was a dog.
Oh, my dear, I'm sorry that you had to hear that. There may be truth to it, but a mother will do anything to support her children. And
how are you feeling?
Creeped out, but it's a great connection of things that I had not seen connected before.
She says, it's tragic, isn't it? Such a sad story. Are you going to take him to the hospital?
Mr. Gennadios is a man of means, and we're going to take care of Patrick in the best way we can. I don't know what's right. I'm a doctor, but I'm more of the anatomist sort than the psychoanalyst variety. We shall see.
She nods like she knows what you're talking about.
Rest assured, you'll have an opportunity to visit him in the future.
I'd like that very much. Then she goes back to it. Patrick, are you there? Let's go to Willoughby and Mr. Turner. Mr. Turner, I think we need a night move here to draw Obert to you. This is just to draw him to you. What specifically are you trying to accomplish in terms of like getting him in a certain place or whatever?
I imagine I'm just purely the bait and Willoughby will be the knife. So probably just putting my trust in Willoughby. Just literally putting myself in a vulnerable position. Otherwise, Obert might not even have fallen for it anyway.
So just strictly just to get his attention so that Willoughby can make the move to actually capture him or destroy him. I still want the night move. What are you afraid will happen if you fail?
What did he threaten me with the first time? A knife or something? A huge, long...
He carries this big knife. Yeah, really huge. Like JRPG big, like, knife.
Yeah. Probably I'm afraid that he'll impale me for all to see on this knife. And I do have the condition that I'm terrified already, so makes sense.
Yeah, I think you should take it at disadvantage just to see if you can. Oh, tell you how it's worse. He impales you and he carves you up on the spot.
Rough. While I'm alive.
Until you last, I guess. Take the roll at disadvantage, please.
Sure. I don't think I have any items that would help me. Yeah. One day I'll find a use for those sex toys, but not today.
Today is not that day.
Yeah. So
I tell you, there's supposed to be a secret compartment in that thing, and the sex toys are a diversion to whatever is truly inside.
Oh, right. I forgot about that. The thing that I have is the thing that will defeat Obert.
And I think the stat, by the way, I think we're using is composure.
Composure 0, so I rolled a 5.
Willoughby, since you're watching, you see it take place, and you're not able to get there in time. Mr. Turner is getting a little tipsy. Maybe you're thinking this night isn't going anywhere. Obert's not going to turn up. And you see Mr. Turner under the gas lamp preaching to a group of drunken sailors. And you see Obert step up behind Mr. Turner, and he says, "There is no God but the great He Sao. And you, most beloved, are going to be slop for the trough." And we just see that knife swing down with such power and sharpness and precision. It just slices through Mr. Turner. Like on that show where they make swords, you hit that side of that pig, it's like that. It's like, Mr. Turner's torso falls to the ground, guts and bones and blood spraying everywhere. The drunken sailors, looks of shock on their face. And then he continues, arm, leg, doing the work. His favorite work. Mr. Turner.
I will use a Janus mask.
Make your Janus mask choice, and then we shall rewind this moment.
It'll be a past.
Okay. We'll do that later, but that did not happen. Instead, what happens is he is lured. Willoughby, you see Obert. Mr. Turner does not. You see Obert skulking around. What do you do?
We're on the edge of the dock, like between ships that have been berthed.
And pubs and stuff, yeah.
Okay. My question is, it feels like there ought to be open water behind him. I'd like to take my directional lantern and focus and blind him to what he's doing in hopes that we can push him in.
Good. We'll come back to that. Mr. Gennadios, Theodora has just whispered to you, I have an ulterior motive for bringing you here. How do you respond?
I'm intrigued.
She says, I would very much like to take you to my room.
I appreciate your directness.
Yes, I am occasionally coy, occasionally a player of games, but sometimes when I want what I want, I go straight for it, Mr. Gennadios. The key is to understanding which tool to pull out of your chest when the moment is right.
I'm honored to be your chosen tool this evening, ma'am.
She takes your hand. They won't miss us. And she guides you upstairs. She says, I have the most wonderful private salon. It's very comfortable. And over the years, I have engaged in some very, very important business there. Can you guess the color scheme I've chosen for this room?
Well, I doubt it will be maroon.
You are most correct, Mr. Gennadios. Please. And she takes you into this salon. And it is not in sapphire blue, to be fair. It's mostly just like delicate creams and things. She says, there's really nothing there. There's not a bed or anything. She says, there's a secret place. Only Elmore knows about it, so don't go telling anyone else. And she
Would not dream of it.
Yeah, she clicks a little thing in a curio cabinet, slides to the side to reveal a little private room. And she takes you in, or she guides you in.
How clever.
When you get to that room, which is small but comfortable, just a few little chairs, comfy chairs and things. There's a boy in the room, probably no more than 9 or 10 years old, incredibly pale, like he's has never seen the sun, and dressed in a very sort of like Little Lord Fauntleroy, suit, little satin coattails and cravat, that kind of thing. She says, you look surprised.
I was not expecting company.
This is my guest. He doesn't like to say his name. This is a tension he and I have, because he knows my name, but I don't know his. But he knows your name as well, Mr. Gennadios.
Well, that seems somewhat unfair.
The boy looks up at you and says, this is not the first time I've laid eyes on you, sir.
I have been known to get around London.
No. This was in Corsica, several hundred years ago.
And Alexander's expression will just fall, and he'll say in Greek, you're quite the world traveler.
He responds back, yes, I have seen much of the world, and not just in passing. I have seen much of it at the beginning. And we'll just cut there to the Empire Club. Brian, two older gentlemen, Sir Mortimer Holland and Colonel Bulstrode, grumble about the lax morals and deficient work ethic of the younger generation. What complaints do they make, and how do we see the envy for their youth?
Sir Mortimer leans back with his pipe in the leather chair. These children, really, like navigating the world. Please, they just go buy a map at Stamford's and Longacre. We were running around with hand-drawn charts with no soundings. Colonel Balustrade pops in with, remember that time we ran aground in the Sandwich Islands? That was a mess. Fortunately, well, Daddy came to the rescue, but we don't talk about that anymore. The envy for the youth. There's a point where Colonel Balustrade goes to stand up to get a glass of water or something, and it has that like, too much time in the hammock at sea. It really took it out of me. And Sir Mortimer knows there was no hammock. It was a plush bed. This is all just grumbling about aches and pains that are natural, not earned.
Good. Patrick? Wilford? Wilford? I'm not sure what he'll respond to now. It feels positively rude to call him by some name I made up. Patrick, are you there? Dr. Tagore. Patrick eventually crawls out from under the brush, up to the fence. Oh, Dr. Tagore stepped away, so we'll wait.
The doorbell rang.
Yeah, that's fair. I figured it was something like that. Yeah, no big deal.
The pork chop is salivating.
Indeed.
Patrick took the real long way around.
He did indeed, yeah.
I recently picked up The Alienist to read. It was on sale at a local shop for like $6 or something.
I'll just pause while we wait on them. Okay. So Dr. Tagore, Patrick crawls up to the fence. Are you trying to stay somewhat back and hidden and let Cassandra deal with Patrick first, or are you going right up there?
And my thoughts to kind of do a Cyrano de Bergerac moment here, and so we'll see how it plays out, but hopefully be kind of the voice from the mist to talk it to a peaceful resolution.
I like it. So what do you do first?
Oh, Patrick crawls through. I'm assuming they have a tender child to puppy dog moment. I'll try and do that sort of dulcet tones, sort of voice from above of like, Patrick, Cassandra's remanded you to our care that, we'll see each other again, but it's time to go elsewhere, time to have a permanent home.
And so Cassandra sort of says this, right? Is that the idea?
Or at least plays into it emotionally and is like, yes, the voice in the shadows is here to help you. Go with it.
It's good. I like it. It's an interesting approach. I would like the night move. What are you afraid is going to happen if this goes poorly?
Patrick bites my calf and takes a chunk out of it.
I think it's worse than that. He feels betrayed by Cassandra, attacks her.
All right.
And so
Remind me, night move 2 dice, but is there a relevant stat or just 2 dice?
it's going to be composure, but I'm checking you have so many conditions. I don't think any of them apply though. So yeah, just 2 dice plus I'm going to say composure. So if you're okay with the possibility of the girl getting attacked, go ahead, proceed.
I don't know. Sure, let's find out. Oh, ooh, what have we got? A 6.
That's with your composure?
That's with composure, yes.
Well, Patrick may not be entirely safe, Fig, as far as Figs go. I think Cassandra is trying to coax him in this way. We can help you. This person here, there's someone who's going to help you, who's going to, just sort of like try to soothe him and like convince him. And he gets this like look in his eyes when he realizes that this was a trap. And he starts to do this like dog growl, like, and Cassandra says, no, Wilfred, it's okay. And she goes up to the fence to like soothe him. And his head just bursts through the bars of the fence and his mouth snaps on her neck. And he's wringing her left and right, back and forth. Blood's going everywhere. And he's wringing the life out of her. The dad's going crazy, trying to pull her off. I assume you are as well, Dr. Tagore. And when it's all said and done, she's quite dead, and Patrick is quite gone. Unless you want to mark Janus Mask, of course.
Oops. Oh, I feel like I'm plowing through Janus Masks here, but it seems like that was terrible, and I should. Let's do it.
Go ahead, mark it. Instead, I'm going to just give you a condition. You are. Oh, that would force you to mark Janus Mask. That's not fair. Yeah, that's not fair. Yeah, that's not fair. No, I'm not doing that. It doesn't. Mechanically, that's not fair. Instead, I will do this. I will say that you're going to be able to bring Patrick in, but you're going to be able to bring Patrick in, but not alive. You can think about what this looks like and we'll resolve it next time we come back.
Bringing him in alive was never a condition of resolving the threat, right?
No.
Yeah.
He just has to be stopped. So we'll come back to that though. Let's go to Willoughby and your plan of stopping Obert. Night move.
Yep.
What are you afraid will happen if you fail?
Exactly what Mr. Turner imagined could have happened, except he doesn't know it didn't happen. And the butchering of Mr. Turner, I think, is what I fear is going to happen.
Yeah, he kills you both. That's how it's worse. He gets you in one quick swipe and then goes for Mr. Turner. Roll with. I'm actually going to have you roll with vitality this time.
I will take the advantage from using my directional lantern.
Yeah, mark it and it's yours. And then roll 3 dice.
That's an 11.
Nice.
Which is just excellent.
Full success. You'll capture Obert. Give us the scene. What does it look like?
I don't want to capture him. I want to hold him under the water as he drowns.
Very good. Mr. Turner, what are you thinking as you see Willoughby doing this? What are you doing even?
I think it's like retribution. Like I wanted him dead ever since he assailed me, and so it's like a strange kind of dark satisfaction to have him meet that end, especially after the fearing of my life and sitting there in abject terror. There's a juxtaposition of pleasure with it.
Go ahead and unmark terrified. You can take that off. Mr. Gennadios. Theodora says, you must understand this is a very, very exciting meeting for me. To have 2 immortal beings in my home, in the very same room, at the same time. A pair of gods in your way, here, enjoying my wine and music.
Well, God and godling, certainly.
The vampire says, if you're referring to me, sir, I would have you know that you are a mere babe in terms of age.
Alexander will smile a little nastily and say, this babe has fully matured, at least.
He says, yes, yes. Trapped in a child's body. I've heard it all. It's a very easy, go-to, frankly, predictable remark. I'm not bothered by it in the slightest.
He'll turn to Theodore and say, now that you have us here, what do you want of us?
Well, I must confess, I have no plans for you, either of you, yet. But my friend here, my house guest, he grows weary of feeding on the chambermaids, and I promised him I would bring him all sorts of interesting blood on which to sup. And I can't think of anything more, well, for this festive occasion, anything more delightful than the blood of an immortal being like you.
My vintage carries a high cost, Theodora.
Name it, Mr. Gennadios. Perhaps I can meet it.
I doubt it.
Nevertheless, I am a merchant by trade. I like to make deals. What is your cost? What is your price? What will you do? How much will it cost me to help keep my little guest satisfied just a little bit longer?
A favor.
I shall grant it. unheard. You can call it in whenever you wish. But for now, he likes to drink from the wrist.
He'll consider for a moment and then just start rolling up his left sleeve.
The boy gets a look in his eyes. And he says, "What makes you think I won't drink too deeply and kill you, sir?"
I don't believe that Theodora would be so rude to a guest.
The boy sinks his teeth into your wrist. And here I'd like the night move. What are you afraid is going to happen if you lose your nerve here?
I get drained dry.
Not sure how it can be worse than that, except to say that he doesn't just end you physically, he ends you existentially, historically. There never was an Alexander Gennadius. If you wish to continue with the feeding, roll with sensitivity, because it's a supernatural being. But no conditions, so you're good there.
That's 5.
We shall come back to it. Let's go to our final stop at the Empire Club. Our final moment, I should say. Drew. Francis Ackerman has recently returned from the subcontinent. As he retires to the bedroom he has taken at the club, how do we see him drop his stern facade and express his vulnerability?
He rolls out a small like desk with a cover on top, and as he rolls back the cover we see all sorts of fine fabrics, silks, and a sewing machine, and he gets to work sewing his fancy embroidered kurtas.
Very nice. Dr. Tagore, I want you just to give me the scene of capturing Patrick and how it ends in Patrick's death.
You mentioned earlier him biting through the railings of a fence, and I feel like that's where it comes to pass, that I'm pathetically trying to pull his teeth away from Cassandra's flesh, and her father steps through the gate sort of into the alley and just twists Patrick's body in a way that snaps his neck through the railing. And I'm kind of in that moment of like, I had hopes to bring him in alive. Oops.
Well, I'm sure the girl's upset, right? Like, there's probably a lot of that.
I've completely betrayed all of her trust in me.
Yeah. It's kind of a sad scene, really. Before we continue, we're getting close to time. Can everybody play for like an extra 10 minutes or so we can wrap up the phases? Good. Okay. Willoughby and Mr. Turner, Obert is defeated. I think I just want a scene between the two of you at the docks there as a sort of little denouement of that moment. Role play.
So did you just let the corpse drift off into the water?
We have to bring him back for Scotland Yard. I think we have to haul him up. And then I look to him hoping that he can help. And I grab kind of like an arm and a shoulder and try to hoist him up onto the dock.
Oh, I'll help. I say we just drag him by his leg, keep his face in the dirt like he lived.
And you notice that Willoughby is buzzing with adrenaline and perhaps reaching for the flask, just damp, trying to wring out the water from the thrashing about. We can call somebody. We don't have to bring the body ourselves, I don't think.
It's true. Whatever you prefer. You did save my life.
I'm glad he's dead.
I more than anyone, I'm sure.
Willoughby will pick up Obert's knife.
His handmade knife?
Mhm. Yes.
Nice. You can add it to your personal quarters if you want. Obert's
Yes,
blade.
please.
Willoughby does need to be more formidable.
I'm gonna wear it like Wonder Woman down the back of anything else.
Or like Cloud in Final Fantasy VII.
Yes, yeah. Name it Strife.
Obert's strife as opposed to Obert's knife.
Yeah. I see why Mr. Gennadius counts on you for all things. You have my trust as well, Willoughby.
It's a pleasure to be of service to you as well, sir. And we kind of just drunkenly weave
That's
back
good.
towards
Good.
Hargrave House.
Nothing to see here, I shout at this.
Good. Mr. Gennadius, the boy is drinking. And I would first like you to describe what is it like to be feasted upon by a being even more ancient than you?
I think there's quite a bit of fascination on Alexander's part. This is definitely new, and that always earns some attention from him. So he's watching it carefully, and he is probably just looking at all the details of not just the action, but the boy, seeing little signs of age, that like in the clothes and just the way he's holding himself and in the corner of his eyes. And I think it feels it's intimidating.
Theodora is speaking quietly near your ear while the vampire is feeding. She says, I have promised him all manner of bloods. I have promised him royal blood. He will soon feast on every member of the royal family, one by one. It's a funny thing when he feeds, when he drinks too deeply. The body is not just drained of blood, but rather he reaches into some place, a dark place, and he throttles the life out of your very existence. It's as if the person is just wiped from memory. I have chambermaids that I have seen pictures of and that Elmore speaks of, but that I cannot remember because I watch them turn into a husk. I watch them disappear. You will find, Mr. Gennadius, that he is drinking a little too deeply right now of you. And whatever history you think you've been a part of, whatever grand adventures or tales are told about you, people are going to forget gradually, slowly perhaps, but it will be gone. And I intend to do the same with the Queen. And indeed, you find yourself losing control. The boy is drinking too deeply, and as he drinks your blood, you find you can't even remember things about your past. It's like he's wiping it away with each liter he consumes. And this will be the end of you, unless you would rather it not be.
I think I will put on the Mask of the Future here.
Which one?
The moss-covered gate.
Oh, very good. What happens on that one?
I narrate a scene in which I express private regret, or actually, I think I'll do the Cosmic Passage instead.
Very good. Instead, the boy drinks a little too deeply, but not enough to existentially end you. And you just take the condition drained. And she never whispered any of those plans or thoughts about the queen or the royal family. At the end, she just says, "You look a little peaked, Mr. Gennadius. Perhaps you should stay here with us while you recover your strength."
I think I've no more patience for surprises and shall be retiring to my own abode this evening.
And we'll just end it there. That concludes the night phase. Let's go to the dawn. No threats were resolved yet. Let's go to dawn questions. Everyone is getting, did the hunters answer a question? Because you did. You answered the question about Obert. Willoughby, did you experience an echo in the night?
The lion's head, yes.
Yes, that was a very good one. Thank you. Did you engage in a petty reprisal of someone who angered your employer?
So I was miffed. And so then I didn't share Theodora's gift. So that was kind of my angle there.
Oh, yeah. It's
petty, but not necessarily. Yeah.
And it's not necessarily directed against, like, it's directed at the employer rather than, like, defending your employer. Did you subtly express sexual desire for your employer in the way you dress them or serve them?
Staring at the buttons, I also was probably staring at his chest
Yeah,
during that particular moment.
The scene was very erotic. I'm into it. You can take that XP. Let's go to Dr. Tagore. Did you experience an echo in the night, Dr. Tagore?
I had tried to aim for it with the running aground and hammock versus an unearned aches and pains with a child being strangled in bars, but it was kind of
I didn't pick up on that. Did you have a conversation with the child? No, you have to do that soon at some point.
Yep.
Did you dismiss the possibility of a supernatural explanation despite everything we've experienced?
Nope.
Yeah. So you just got your XP for answering the question.
Yep.
Let's go to Mr. Gennadios. Did you secretly show a vulnerable side to someone? I would say yeah, with allowing yourself to be fed upon.
And also I was going for that with not apologizing, but sort of apologizing to Willoughby.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's a good moment. Did you get an echo in the night?
The kurta that he's wearing is made.
Very good.
Like
did you let someone touch you and then make them pay a price for doing so? I don't think that. Did that come up?
That's what I was going for with the favor from Theodora.
I think once it's fulfilled, possibly. I'm not sure the promise of the favor is enough. Let's go to, I think once we see a dramatic consequence of that moment, I think I'd be more into it. Mr. Turner. Face-to-face encounter with the dark entity. Yes, it's the easiest one in the world. Did you counsel someone using your supernatural affinities as the basis for that advice?
No.
Did you get an echo in the night?
Yeah, the splash of red on the sailor. The captain with the red.
Who was buying cards.
Oh, the card. Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's right. Thank you. Yeah, very good. Awesome. Fabulous. And that sorts dawn questions.
mechanical question.
for it.
With my playbook move that I get to in the dawn phase, say I could claim an object. Is that Obert's knife in this instance, or is that something I would have been able to do in scene and I can have something else now?
It could be
How does
something
that work?
else. Yeah, I gave you Obert's knife for free. So let's go to playbook moves. Playbook moves. Memory is the servant. Do you want to claim a memento from that night phase? Apart from Obert's knife.
Well, that was the big one. I guess I don't have something at the ready. Let's just say I picked up a bundle of rope from the docks as well.
Okay.
That seems handy to have.
If you give it to someone else, you get to mark XP. Otherwise, you can keep it in your own personal quarters.
Okay.
Which one are you going to do? Are you giving it away, or are you?
Mr. Turner, do you fancy some rope for your just general lifestyle?
Sure.
Mark an XP.
And I will
roll,
mark another.
Yep, you mark XP. Let's go to night work. No, the resurrectionists. So what'd you have them do tonight, Dr.
I didn't
Tabor?
bring me a torso. Need to have a way to sort of Mr. Potato Head these parts together.
Indeed, indeed. Did you also choose that there's no blowback or complications from their criminal activity?
Yeah, I didn't say it out loud, but that seems
Okay.
clean and easy right now.
Share a memory via the torso.
Oh, right. So remind me, is the memory supposed to tie directly into the torso? I don't recall that.
I think it's meant to, like kind of allude to it, right? It's the idea.
Got it. All right, let's go gruesome here. Like emotionally gruesome. Post that childlike argument of who does mom love more with my sister Dottie, we come to realize that our mother is pregnant with another child and that neither of us is going to be the favorite. There's a new child on the way.
Interesting. Janus mask prompts. I think we have a few on the table right now. We also have the Mask of the Pig. We'll do the Mask of the Pig last. Let's first do any other Janus mask prompts. There was a lot of Janus masks this session. Who has an unresolved one that's not Mask of the Pig?
I have an easy one that I thought of, which is as a young adult shows when you first met the leader of the coven. And I think while I was the first time that I did the beacon in the night running along the streets of wherever I was, probably in fog, a carriage stops next to me, and as it opens, we see a man take me in, urchin as I was. Probably looks like the features of the person that I killed in the coven, probably like related as a father or something like that. And I step into the carriage.
Nice. Any other Janus mask? Dr. Tagore, did you not have one? Maybe I made that up.
No, you're right. What was this? Flashback to the time when I first realized I'm the person I lost from going to be together for forever. I don't know if I've got anything good right this second.
You can hold it. Do it next time.
Can I
It's fine.
pick this up at the start of the next session?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Look, it's got some good narrative potential, but I don't know.
I think so too. Yeah. I'd like to, if you need the time, I'd rather you take the time.
Let's do that.
Let's do the Mask of the Pig, though. I'll remind you what the Mask of the Pig requires of you each, which is tonight you're going to dream. Perhaps it's the death of Obert Figg, who was, we know, a devotee of Mok. Or Mok, I suppose, it's a Breton word. Each hunter narrates this dream about the pagan swine god Mok. Did Mok demand a sacrifice of riches, status, or blood? And in the dream, what did you sacrifice? Based off what you choose, or based off whatever Mok demanded. Go ahead, Willoughby.
So in the dream, Willoughby is running, and they are running. It's that kind of classic dream where you don't know, are you being chased or are you chasing something through the forest, through the thick underbrush? And eventually they find that there is a wild pig in front of them. And they know in their heart that Mock wants blood. And so with Obert's knife in this dream, Willoughby manages to grapple the pig and slice its throat. But at that same moment, Willoughby also feels the knife across their own throat and bleeding slowly into darkness and then waking in terror and sweat.
I love it. Very good. Thank you.
For me, this is a recurring nightmare. It started on the ship from Calcutta to London. And it's me giving up on my professional goal of being just a legitimate, competent physician and going down this supernatural, perhaps unholy route of trying to reconstruct my lost sister.
Nice.
Alexander dreamed of it was like a big London society soiree, and in the center was a pig just on a pedestal, and everyone would walk up to it and kneel and just put their head on the ground in front of it. And it got to Alexander, and he refused. And as he watched, the pig got larger and larger, and it screamed at him. And that was when he woke up.
Nice.
One of them is blood or status
Or riches.
or riches. I think in the dream, somehow Turner knows that he is his father back in his old house, and the father like opens the door to the dusty room of his son and stands on like a chest at the foot of the bed and slides his neck into a noose that's hanging there and falls and sways down to and starts, hanging like a pendulum, broken.
Very good. Stars and wishes. Stars are things we enjoyed. Wishes are things we hope to see next time. Whoever wants to go first, take it away.
Loving the imagery. Oh, sorry.
Oh, you go.
All right. I'm loving the imagery that Willoughby started out tying a necktie and then forcibly drowned someone at the end. The whole potential for strangulation running through this was amazing. And also just somehow Mr. Turner coming in drunkenly, or well, fake drunkenly, on the chorus of sea shanties he doesn't know was pretty delightful. And it's good to see the Limehouse Lurker get some teeth, so to speak, as that passes forward.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Drew.
I have in my little stars notes here, I have yes, what, and then leaving the package by the door was that was a highlight, an early highlight. Also drowning Obed, and I can't forget the tasteful coupling with a demonic entity and the camera going, washing it out, and Dr. Tagore's scene with Patrick, even though it didn't go quite to plan. I thought that was just a really good to see Dr. Tagore taking that kind of job. He's usually more about the more intellectual pursuits, so that was fun. Oh, and wishes, looking forward to seeing seeing how we wrap up the figs. That'll be a good scene, I think. I'm looking forward to seeing if there's any fallout from Willoughby's actions here.
Yeah.
We essentially murdered both of Lord Hortensia's sons in a single evening.
Yeah.
I think it's not going to go great.
And she's made sacrifices for them, right? Yeah. So, yeah. One even gets the impression of the reason why Titus Figg started like baking people into pies is almost like a ironic or sardonic commentary about his children having to eat their mother to survive, right? Like it's almost like revenge, you know, in a way. I think the interesting question there is how did the experience, if there's a connection between that experience, how'd that experience lead to Obert taking up a worship of this terrible god, right? Like that's interesting to me too. But it might be something we may never learn because Obert's dead. But or the La Hortensia might also, I suppose, have something to say about it. But in any case, the figs were super. That was a star for me. The figs were like an incredibly. I just like the whole figs story has gotten more and more interesting as time has progressed. Like that threat's been hanging out in the air for a long, long time, and so it's kind of fun just to see all the different little nuances and pieces of it sort of come together. Yeah, I don't know if did I interrupt someone? I don't think so. But another star is I enjoyed like everyone kind of splitting up on that last night phase. I think the night phases are really good when the characters split up a little bit because you get to see lots more different parts of the city and different parts of the action, and so that was really enjoyable for me. And I just really enjoyed the scene with Patrick was great. The capturing Obert was really, really great. The stuff at Braithwaite Manor was really fun, or Braithwaite Hall. Yeah, I just am super happy with a lot of it. How it all went. It felt really good in play. And I guess my wish is I'm curious to see, like, I think that the mastermind plot is getting deeper, right? And we're learning a lot more about it, and it's becoming more forward in the story. And so I'm just kind of excited to keep pushing on that. So because you're now up to 10 mastermind clues. So, but those are my stars and wishes.
Stars for me, I also really enjoyed how mildly erotic everything was. It did feel like when we weren't in immediate danger, there was more lusty, not overt, but just like simmering in the background of a lot of our character interactions in a way that I don't think we necessarily captured in the earlier scenes, which I really found fascinating and enjoy. I also really enjoyed the I have a very specific image in my head of Mr. Turner pretending to try and be a sailor, this very dapper, proper man, just trying to drunkenly cavort and failing and or succeeding to any number of degree. That's still very vivid in my
fellow
mind.
sailors.
Yes. Live long and drink some. Wishes, I'm looking forward to seeing how Mr. Ives gets folded into the Whaley camera stuff. I think Society Obscura is going to be a fun place for seeing some character development there. I am also curious to see how Alexander's fading historical memory might bring itself, how I might observe that as Willoughby as we move forward is very something I'm enjoying and looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, it's an open question whether that actually happened or not because of the Janus mask, but I like the idea of playing with it a little bit if sure. Drew's into it at least. But yeah. Any other stars or wishes?
Yeah, I really like the death of Lassie scene, and I really liked it gave me like Interview with the Vampire / Lestat vibes with the Kristen Dunst's young female character being like, the most vicious of them all, vampire wise, and all that stuff happening, and what Drew decided to do with that. Like, I wasn't sure if he was gonna like, I don't know, double mask or something, and like rule it or something. And that whole bargaining scene was just really fun. And getting closer to Willoughby feels really cool and interesting because at a player level, I guess for my wish is I want to have that scene where I'm working towards basically self-destructing myself, and then I want the undeniable to deny that destruction and see what becomes of that. And so Willoughby getting really close to Ives right now feels like very symmetrical or pleasant in that design because they're so close, but there's like an implied betrayal that's gonna probably happen because Willoughby knows like almost all of Ives' secrets after like every really disturbing thing that Ives has done. I think Willoughby's been there now, and especially with the mirror action going on, I think it's very clear. And so I think it will be really interesting to work towards that, and then just figure out, I guess, what Ives becomes, or whatever happens with that. Yeah. And then the Obscura thing was very interesting. I really like that threat. It's really compelling, and it reminds me of the Society of Dreamers a little bit. Yeah.
That was a big influence when I wrote it, so yeah, it's good to pick up on that.
Yeah, I like seeing all these like different little elements of Jason DNA in this game from all over across the years of us playing. So it's been fun to notice those things and be like, I know these things. It's very fun.
Awesome. Any other stars or wishes before we go?
The last wish is I agree with Fraser. There is definitely a fork in the road for Willoughby. I am between a beloved and undeniable, and something's going to give at some point, and it'll be really fun to see what it actually turns into.
I love it. Me too. A stinger. The camera pans down to the front gate at Buckingham Palace, where we see a pair of guards lying in a pool of their own blood, having been swiftly dispatched by some powerful, terrible beast. And we see a strange, or we just see like this blood smearing and dripping all along the little path leading into the entrance of the palace proper. And we see Theodora in her sapphire blue gown. This is nighttime, holding the hand of the boy as they walk up and down the empty grand halls and stairways of Buckingham Palace. And Theodora says, "You will get to feast on all of them soon enough. But for now, just learn their smell. Learn how to find them quickly. I think it'll be more fun if we treat it like a bit of a game. It'd be too easy to eat them all here in one spot. It could be like the hunt. Tatiana would love that." And they're getting ready to leave when a guard who's alerted to the trouble up front is rushing in and ready to sound the alarm. But before he can do so, he stops and floats in the air. And we see very quickly that the little boy is no longer with Theodora, but she's standing there with a smile on her face and a sense of intense anticipation, like what's going to happen. And we see the guard floating above. And we see the guard's stomach extending. And we hear a tearing sound as his coat and flesh are being ripped open from the inside. And we see the boy's little hands tearing him apart from the inside. And he sticks his face out of the viscera, out of the hole, dripping viscera floating in the air. And he looks down at Theodora and says, "I like your plan very much." And we'll end there. Thank you all so much. I'm very excited to continue the story next week.
Thank you very much.
Same here.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.